So we are explaining yesterday, or we have just started yesterday, the meaning of fiscal policy. I told you fiscal policy is the policy which is relating to taxation, public expenditure and borrowing. Again, sitting in the front bench and talking means you are unnecessarily not allowing the other student to sit in the front bench. बात करने का तो go to the library, जगह है उधर. Madam librarian भी allow नहीं करता है. I told you एक ही chance है college का बाहर का bus stop. Okay, there you can sit and talk. वो neighbor building वाला कोई police को phone करके बोलेगा, आ जाओ. Then what to do? They will do that. आप लोगों, yes, honestly telling you that all the neighbor building people are behind you. So behave properly. There is no other way. I was explaining about the Great Depression of 1930. This discussion has already happened. After 1930 Great Depression, the role of government has increased. This is what we were explaining. That is the main reason during the COVID period also, economy did not collapse because government was helping the economy. This is what we were explaining yesterday. And we started with the objective of fiscal policy, optimum allocation of resources we have completed. Now we are dealing with full employment. Someone was having the textbook. Where is the textbook? Give me just for a support I wanted. Thank you, my dear. Yes, full employment, you are aware that this is a concept which you are learning from 11th standard onwards. Whatever economic theory we are explaining, we always assume there is full employment. So tell me what you mean by this concept of full employment. Boys, full employment means all the resources are fully employed. Don't think that full employment means there is no unemployment. It does not mean that. What we meant is wherever there is the full employment, all the resources are fully utilized. When the resources are fully utilized, what will happen? वही economy में production ज़्यादा होगा, employment भी ज़्यादा होगा, and people will be getting what they want to buy because all the resources are fully utilized. And remember, full employment के लिए government का taxation policy, public expenditure policy play a very significant role. Because if the government wants to achieve full employment, they have to see that our resources are fully utilized, then the tax rate has to be low. If you are keeping the tax rate very high, naturally, people, they know whatever they are earning, huge amount of money will be given as the tax. So the consumption will be reduced. So full employment is one of the basic objectives of government. And we see that even all the developed countries, this आपने पढ़ा कि Say's law of market. Module number 1 में पढ़ा. Supply create its own demand. Till 1930, world was believing in Say's law of market, where there was always full employment. After 1930, आपको मालूम है Say's law of market has been rejected by the world, and we have accepted Keynesian theory. Okay, the effective demand. ये सब इस साल में ही पढ़ा है. Okay, so after 1930, role of government has become important. Again, the conclusion is that only when the role of government is important means fiscal policy is important. That is also you will have to remember. Third point is you have to be a little careful. What do you mean by economic stability? Economic stability protect the economy from economic fluctuations, protect the economy from बराबर लिखो, otherwise exam का time आदत ही नहीं होगा. Protect the economy from economic fluctuations and business cycle. Protect the economy from economic fluctuations and business cycle. That is the meaning of economic stability. Protect the economy from economic fluctuations and business cycle. Second line लिखो. Business cycle. Continue करो. Business cycle create fluctuations Business cycle creates fluctuations. I'm going on repeating. Business cycle creates fluctuations in income, investment and employment. Investment and employment. Business cycle create fluctuations in income, investment and employment. There are 4 phases of trade cycle. There are 4 phases of trade cycle. Padha hai, yaad hi nahi hoga. There are 4 phases of trade cycle. Take down that point. There are 4 phases of trade cycle. Recession, depression, recovery, peak or prosperity. Peak or prosperity. There are 4 phases of trade cycle. It can be in any order. Recession. After recession, there will be depression. That order you cannot change. After depression, there will be recovery. Then there will be peak. Whoever wants to draw the business cycle, you can draw so that you will remember. I am just rubbing this to get some place. Draw the business cycle. Abhi yaad aayega. Kidhar to bhi dekha hai, madam. This is the business cycle. The fiscal policy, which is used to fight business cycle, the fiscal policy, which is used to fight the business cycle, fiscal policy, which is used to fight the business cycle, is known as counter cyclical fiscal policy. Objective में भी आएगा, descriptive में भी आएगा. Counter, I am repeating. You are waiting there. Wait. The fiscal policy, which is used to fight the business cycle, which is used to fight, F-I-G-H-T, the business cycle is known as counter cyclical fiscal policy. It is very, very important. Counter cyclical, मैं लिखा है उधर देखो. Counter cyclical fiscal policy. 1 week आपको स्कूल में भेजना पड़ेगा. वो थोड़ा राइटिंग का हैबिट है. Okay. Counter cyclical policy. Who is coming for? You have to make an announcement. No, I had a talk with madam. They said that you can practice after the lecture. Why do you want to practice during the lecture? I really cannot understand. After the lecture, you can practice, right? She will come after the lecture. And she is a good student the whole time. And they said that this 307 is not given by anybody. This room is used by students themselves for practice. And for the practice, go for Oasis practice after the lecture. 11:30 के बाद शाम तक टाइम है. You can practice, no problem. A counter cyclical policy is adopted. इधर देखकर लिखो. Counter cyclical policy is adopted to fight depression. Counter cyclical policy is adopted to fight depression and recession. Counter cyclical economics सुनने पर समझ में आएगा मैडम क्या बोलता है करके. Counter cyclical policy is adopted to fight depression and recession. मैडम इससे भी बेटर घर में बैठने का था. वो टाइम गया, अभी नहीं मिलेगा. Okay, now after another 100 years it will come. No chance. Okay. Now, during the recession, Lego. During the recession, during the recession, government will be using. During the recession, government will be using expansionary fiscal policy. During the recession, government will be using expansionary fiscal policy. Ligo udhar barabar. During recession, government will be using expansionary fiscal policy. मैं उधर लिखा है expansionary fiscal policy. Full stop. Again change the para. Deficit budget. Top I am writing. Deficit budget. Deficit budget has to be followed. Deficit budget has to be followed during recession and depression. First you take down. Deficit budget has to be followed during recession and depression. During recession, deficit budget has to be followed. Deficit budget has to be followed during recession and depression. In order to fight the depression, continue karo. In order to fight the depression, listen clearly, you will get the point. In order to fight the depression, government has to use the fiscal policy. Government has to use the fiscal policy. Underline that. In order to fight the depression, government has to use the fiscal policy. Government has to use the fiscal policy. Government will reduce the tax. Continue. Government will reduce the tax. Government will reduce the tax and increase the public expenditure. Government will reduce the tax and increase the public expenditure. Increase the public expenditure during recession and depression. During recession and depression, government will increase public expenditure and decrease the tax during recession and depression. Underline karo, because they are very important. Now you are listening. Children, yes boys, counter-cyclical fiscal policy ये सब एक मिनट में आने वाला points है नहीं. You will have to understand the fact. When there is prosperity, when there is peak, nobody bothers because situation is very favorable. ज्यादा पैसा मिला करके किसको भी problem नहीं है. All are very happy in that stage. The problem comes when there is recession, when there is depression. And students, you are not able to link yourself with the subject. That is why this problem is coming. Look. You have to understand where is the recession and where is the depression. Because this is recession, this is depression. ये समझ में आने पर this is the recession, this is the depression. A period पर economy, the growth is falling down. So ये situation में government को क्या करना पड़ेगा? Government has to follow deficit budget. It is a mandatory objective question. During the period of recession and depression, government follow dash budget. Government will be following deficit budget. आपको ये समझ में आना चाहिए, मैडम ये deficit budget क्या है? Can you imagine if you are in the place of government, what you will do? Because economy is facing recession. So government को क्या करना पड़ेगा? Tax कम करना पड़ेगा और expenditure बढ़ाना पड़ेगा. Some girls are not listening. I told you 10 साल लगेगा पास होने के लिए because you are totally out of touch of the subject. Group में बैठकर बात करने के लिए strictly we will not allow. We will call your parents. इधर आने का तो you will have to listen. And listen करने के लिए थोड़ा time लगेगा because these are all the hardcore economics. इधर उधर मोबाइल में देखकर ये बात करके पानी पीकर बैठने पर अप्रैल महीने में बहुत ज्यादा पानी पीना पड़ेगा. So listen carefully. I told you what is the situation. Situation is recession. Situation is depression. Depression में government कौन सा policy follow करेगा? Point number 1, they will be following deficit budget. आपको ये समझ में आना चाहिए, मैडम ये deficit budget क्या है? I told you deficit budget means tax has to be less and the tax has to be less and the expenditure has to be high. When government is spending more and more money, government के पास पैसा नहीं है, so there will be deficit. That is the meaning. Deficit means payment is more than income. That is the meaning of the term deficit. So during the period of recession and depression, government will adopt two policies. Tell me, taxation को क्या करेगा recession का period पर? I told you, take the example of this global pandemic. COVID का period पर government ने taxation को क्या कर दिया? Government did not increase at least, and they try to reduce the tax wherever it is possible. ज़्यादा तो reduce नहीं किया है इधर, but during that period they have to reduce the tax. आप ये भी सुना होगा जिसको लोन देने, लोन का रीपेमेंट है, हर महीना हाउसिंग लोन लिया है, हाउसिंग लोन का EMI है, ओके, इक्वेटेड मंथली इंस्टॉलमेंट मेरे को देना पड़ेगा, मेरे पास इनकम नहीं है, बिकॉज कंपनीज आर क्लोज्ड और कंपनी इज गिविंग हाफ सैलरी. So a situation में what did the government said? Government said that you don't have to pay the installment now. We are giving more time. Bank को बोला do not compel the people to pay now. Give more time for the people to pay. So because the period was recession, at least when they are not paying the equated monthly installment, EMI जब pay नहीं करता है, वो at least वो पैसा तो government के पास, individual के पास होगा. With that money, they can run the family. That was the idea of the government. Then government will increase public expenditure. Yesterday only I told you, all the government in the world, they have come out, or they had all come out with bailout plan. Yesterday only I told you, every government, American economy was pouring money, printing and pouring money. Indian economy, Nirmala Sitharaman was announcing so much amount of money, whether she knows or we know about how many zeros are in that. That much crores of rupees were spent in the economy. You will ask, Madam, aisa paisa kidhar gaya? If this money has been given in the form of subsidy, this money has been given to the poor people. Hello, who is using the mobile in the class? So then what is happening is, people have to be helped by the government. Yes, the boy who is sitting in the third row, this side, who is sitting in the fourth bench, this side the boy from the last fourth bench, get up, who is wearing the white mask. Aisa baithega, madam, maine kya kya, fourth, the boy who is sitting in the fourth bench from the last, udhar bag and baggage lekar aao idhar. इधर आकर बैठो. आउट ऑफ इंडिया जाने के जैसा आएगा उतना बैग एंड बैगेज, वो बीच में किधर डिसअपियर हो गया, इमिग्रेशन से डिसअपियर हो गया. आगे आने का इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है, पीछे बैठने का, बात करने का. And I told teacher cannot stand because it's a hybrid model. If I stand, the people in the online, they cannot hear my voice. I have to sit and teach. So the people who are sitting in the last benches, now there is no place to change you. I will send you out of the class. I told you counter-cyclical fiscal policies of 10 साल लगेगा समझ में आने के लिए. बाद में मैसेज के ऊपर मैसेज आएगा, मैडम ATKT ये फॉर्म कब फिल करने का है, कैसा पास करने का. So try to behave, that you are in the class, open the notebook, write the points. Recess का time बात करो. और इतना ज्यादा बात करने का तो कोई मॉल वगैरह ओपन है, करके देखो 7 बजे, उधर थोड़ा ट्राई कर सकता है, किसको भी मालूम नहीं पड़ेगा. एक मॉल के अंदर जाओ, शाम तक ही बाहर आएगा. ओके, इतना पूरा दिन डिस्कस करने पर ऑटोमेटिकली नेक्स्ट 10 दिन के लिए नहीं तो 1 महीने के लिए नहीं जाएगा. ज्यादा बात करने पर फाइटिंग में हो जाएगा. इसलिए बोलते एक दिन मॉल में जाओ और बात करो, ऑटोमेटिकली यू विल कम टू द नॉर्मल लाइन. एक क्लास में बैठने पर ये प्रॉब्लम आता है, बाकी स्टूडेंट्स को देखने के बिना, मैडम मेरे को बात करने का है. Yes, listen, we were explaining about bailout plan. What is the meaning of bailout plan? I told you. Government was pouring money during the period of COVID. Why the government was pouring money? Because people lost employment. People lost income. So लोगों का, especially poor people, आपने टीवी में देखा है how the people were going to UP, how the people were going to West Bengal. वो picture देखने पर naturally everybody will be feeling so sad. Trains were stopped. You are remembering that lockdown period. All on a sudden, train services were stopped. Buses were not available, and they were walking along with the family. So many people, these migrant laborers, they were going back to their hometown. So what did the government do? At least ये लोगों का account में 1,500 rupees every month. Whatever, something is better than nothing. Like that, government was releasing the money and food, kerosene, wheat. वो सब ration card से ज़्यादा देता था. This is the meaning of bailout plan. So what I was explaining, during the period of recession and depression, I will ask question towards the girls who are sitting in the last benches. Because I know that many of them are not listening. ऐसा ही आएगा class में, इधर आने का तो 11 बजे तक ही बात करेगा. That is the height of tolerance. 11 बजे के बाद बात ही नहीं करने का है. फिर एकदम चुप. घर में जाने का मम्मी के सामने ऐसा दिखाएगा, ये तो इतना इनोसेंट है मदर, क्या बोलने का. वो टीचर तो ऐसा ही बात करता है. क्या इधर कुछ वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग होने पर मालूम पड़ेगा पीछे बेंच में बैठकर क्या करता है करके. So we were explaining, I told you about the fiscal policy during the business cycle. So कौन सा पीरियड पर ज्यादा बिजनेस पॉलिसी यूज करना पड़ेगा, फिस्कल पॉलिसी? ड्यूरिंग रिसेशन एंड डिप्रेशन. During the recession and depression, I am asking you this question. During recession, government follows dash budget, deficit budget. The girls in the last, during the recession, government follows dash budget, a deficit budget. What is deficit budget? Payment is more than revenue. That is the meaning of deficit budget. We go there. Deficit budget means payment is more than receipt, or expenditure is more than revenue. Expenditure is more than revenue. जैसा चाहिए लिखो. Deficit budget means expenditure is more than revenue. Expenditure is more than revenue. So recession and depression का period पर, how do the government use taxation and public expenditure? Give me the answer. During the period of recession and depression, how does the government use taxation? Taxation को कम करेगा या increase करेगा? कम करेगा. और public expenditure को increase करेगा. What is the reason? So that people and the economy will slowly come out of recession and depression. During this budget, Nirmala Sitharaman, when she was presenting the budget, everybody was thinking that government will reduce the public expenditure. But they did not do. What is the reason? Even now we are undergoing that, we are in the middle of that global pandemic. Because first variant आता है, second आता है, third आता है, कभी भी lockdown आता है, nothing is certain. So government wanted to continue the same status at least for one more year. So that by the time the picture will be clear, then they will slowly withdraw the benefit what is given. So that is the meaning of counter-cyclical fiscal policy. That word is very, very important. A student को वो समझ में नहीं आएगा वो क्या लिखेगा. Girls who are sitting towards the last 3 rows of all these 4 rows में last 3 benches. What do you mean by counter-cyclical fiscal policy? What is the meaning? The fiscal policy which the government is using during the recession and depression. That is known as counter-cyclical fiscal policy. The fiscal policy government is using during recession and depression. Okay, that is known as counter-cyclical. So what point we have discussed today? Economic stability. Again, we are coming back to this point. It is the duty of the government to ensure that economy should be stable. Economy कैसा stable होगा? Business cycle आना नहीं चाहिए. And nobody knows when the business cycle will come. You please try to understand or think to yourself. We are always proud that our technology is highly advanced. Madam, अभी सब कुछ मोबाइल में देखते हैं, सब कुछ डिजिटल है, घर में बैठकर हम सब कुछ करते हैं. No doubt, we are accepting it. But my question is, why this technology could not predict that COVID was going to come? 2019 में जब लॉकडाउन स्टार्ट हो गया, कौन सा भी सॉफ्टवेयर बोला नहीं है कि this COVID is going to attack the whole world. And अभी भी कौन सा भी सॉफ्टवेयर ये बोलता नहीं है कि when the world will be out of this COVID pandemic. अब देखो. So don't think that software is going to provide all the solutions. So because economic fluctuations are very common and business cycles are very common. Generally business cycle आने पर minimum तो 5 साल it will be the part of the economy. So government has to be very careful because recession is at least better than depression. If the government is careless, recession से economy depression में गिरेगा. And minimum 10 times we are repeating in a day about 1930 depression. And because of this counter-cyclical fiscal policy, India government or any other government in the world did not fall into depression during the COVID period because हमने sufficient precautions ले लिया. Because the precaution in the sense, government knows that some industries will be closed down. You are young children. If you are, reading or listening to the videos, you will understand. America, there was a president. Now he is, he has been defeated, Donald Trump. When he was the American president, this global pandemic has happened. After that, it was followed by the American election. Trump ने क्या किया? Second wave का उधर. एक particular, he was very, like you can say that very bold. He said that how many months we will continue with this lockdown? Because lockdown will affect the economy. Economy may go back to depression. So he said that industries have to start working. And he said when people are not having the money, we will issue the checks. And I told American economy, ma'am, everybody got. They were calling some bonus checks. Government was issuing even to the students. Because there were so many Indian students who have gone to study in US and other part of the world. There all on a sudden airlines got stopped. So they cannot come back to India. And their universities also closed down. Everybody went into online mode. So how the student will survive? So Donald Trump ने बोला student को भी हम हर महीना पैसा देगा in order to survive in the American economy. But इसके वजह से क्या हो गया? America suffered maximum in terms of death in the case of COVID. So many people died in US because the reason is this only. Government का policy, they wanted to protect the economy. Economy को protect करने का तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? Lockdown कम करना पड़ेगा. Lockdown कम कर दिया, COVID का death ज़्यादा हो जाएगा. So this was a very challenging job. इसलिए government of India has, you can say that, dealt it in a very decent manner. Because comparing to any other country, our population and the slum pockets are very high. So इतना ज़्यादा लोगों को घर में बैठने के लिए बोलना possible है ही नहीं. So that challenging period में we know that counter-cyclical or counter-cyclical fiscal policy. Again, I am asking you, what do you mean by counter-cyclical fiscal policy? Follow the answer. Counter-cyclical fiscal policy का meaning क्या है? The boys who are sitting towards the last and teaching economics. Okay. What is counter-cyclical fiscal policy? The fiscal policy which is used to fight business cycle. Yeah, recession and depression. That is the meaning of counter-cyclical. जब business cycle होगा उसका सीधा opposite आप use करने का है. So counter-cyclical period में हम क्या करेगा? We will be using the deficit budget. There is no other way. So government का deficit ज़्यादा बढ़ जाने पर that is also a problem. Now America is facing inflation because they were going on printing the currency. People are having lot of money in hand. So that is also dangerous. So please remember that finance minister role is very, very important. And fiscal policy alone will not be successful. Fiscal policy के साथ साथ monetary policy भी होना चाहिए. I told you yesterday, monetary policy is relating to money supply. So fiscal policy and monetary policy are the two hands. We cannot survive with one hand. Though we will survive, it will be difficult. We require both the hands. Similarly, economy requires fiscal policy as well as monetary policy. And this chapter, we are talking only about fiscal policy. That is the meaning of it. Next step, increasing the rate of investment and capital formation. Again, how to make you understand, increasing the rate of investment and capital formation. First and foremost, you write there, investment depends upon rate of interest. Investment depends upon rate of interest, comma, tax incentive, and subsidy. Investment depends upon three things: rate of interest, tax incentive, and subsidy. Tax incentive and subsidy. During the period of recession, during the period of recession and depression, government has to provide, during the period of recession and depression, government has to provide tax incentive and subsidy. Government has to provide tax incentive and subsidy to the private sector. Tax incentive and subsidy to the private sector.